Yeah, that's right. Despite having done an MGSV run only a couple of months ago, and originally intending to either do that run or this one, I got caught up in the MGS Delta hype and did this run as well. Recently, I posted a cryptic poll with 4 options to vote on: Tactical Espionage Action, Predator, Bare Essentials, and Finances. In reality, that was a voting poll to decide what run I was going to do for MGS Delta first, and you guys chose Tactical Espionage Action, which was the option that corresponded with the Deluxe Edition Peace Walker sneaking suit and battle dress outfits. So, because you guys chose it, today I'll be trying to figure out if you can beat Metal Gear Solid Delta as Big Boss from Peace Walker. The primary rule set is pretty simple. I must wear either the Peace Walker sneaking suit or battle dress for the entire game, with the only exception being when I have to disguise myself as Rykov, and I can only use weapons that are also in Peace Walker. Additionally, you guys gave me the cool idea for my Solid Snake MGSV run to do the run again, but this time also follow the rules of Metal Gear Solid 1, so like with no crouch walking or reflex mode and with an overhead camera, stuff like that. So for this run, I'll also be playing by Peace Walker rules. It'll be kinda difficult since I've never actually played Peace Walker, but I've tried to do some research to figure out what I can and can't do, so please let me know in the comments if I missed something and you see it, like if I did something I shouldn't have done. Now, let's start the run. First off, the game asks which MGS game I like, and naturally for this run, I pick Peace Walker despite having never even actually played it. Next, the remake lets you choose whether you want to play the game in Legacy style with an overhead camera and first-person aiming, or in New style with a free-moving third-person camera and the ability to move and fire weapons simultaneously. And though I at first went with Legacy style just to test it out, since I've never actually played MGS3 before and wanted to see what the OG experience was like, since Peace Walker is technically mostly what this game would consider New style, we'll be switching to that later. Then we get to the difficulty. I was of a couple minds when it came to the difficulty. I didn't want it to be too easy, or else it wouldn't be a good challenge run, and it wouldn't be a good test and showing for Peace Walker Big Boss. But extreme seemed to step too far since Peace Walker isn't on that level of difficulty, and this was my first ever run of the game. With that in mind, I decided to go with hard mode. Enemy alertness and damage was increased from normal, making it a good challenge for me and a good test of Peace Walker Big Boss's abilities. After getting to watch the gorgeous new cutscenes with those crispy Unreal Engine 5 new graphics, my first objective was to get my gear back, which I did by climbing this tree and hanging down onto it. With my gear retrieved, I don my Peace Walker sneaking suit and become the famous Nicaraguan bird photographer, La Serpiente. After getting smacked by this crocodile and getting hit in the face, receiving a scratch that'll remain there for the rest of the entire run thanks to the honestly pretty cool new system in Delta where your injuries and scars remain and are cumulative, I attempt this first encounter in Legacy mode and see just how difficult it was comparatively to New style. Granted, I'm not allowed to first-person aim since you could only do that with scoped weapons in Peace Walker, and I don't have a scoped weapon yet, so I'm literally trying to knock these guys out by essentially blind firing at them, but I can still see how this would be a little more challenging even without my personal restrictions. That said, after switching to New style, I carefully sneak my way over to the next area. For the most part, I'll be attempting to take advantage of the fact that the Peace Walker sneaking suit has noise dampening technology that silences my footsteps by primarily taking the stealthy approach throughout, though of course for boss fights, we'll definitely be switching to the Peace Walker battle dress. After dispatching soldiers into Lenovadno with hornets and tranq darts, I move on to Rosvet, where I quickly and quietly take out all the soldiers there with a combination of CQC and my tranq darts. If my research was correct, you can restrain, choke, throw, and interrogate enemies with CQC, but you're not able to kill them because Snake only had a riot prod in Peace Walker and didn't have a knife, so I'll have to be strictly non-lethal with my CQC. I rescue Sokolov, he compliments my very English-sounding Russian, and then we get ambushed by Ocelot in his first ever meeting with Big Boss. He loses the fight against me, but even so, he's pretty good. Sokolov exposits about the Shagohod, the boss defects, we get to meet Mr. Kuwabara for the first time, and let me just say that he looks a lot better here in UE5 than he did in the Fox engine in MGSV, I have to admit. Then we meet the Cobras, the boss dismantles my weapon and beats my ass for the first of many times in this run, she throws me into a river, and then Volgan nukes OKB-781 with an American nuke and a Davy Crockett, almost starting World War III. In the only instance in this game of Fulton extraction, Snake Fultons himself away, and after a week of R&R, we return to begin Operation Snake Eater, where we've got to assassinate the boss and destroy the Shagohod. Not having Fultons like I'm used to in MGSV, or like Vic Boss here is used to in MGS Peace Walker, definitely affected things, but I honestly thought it was a refreshing new experience to have to worry about how you left the battlefield and whether or not you just left the guys out in the open or if they woke up. Now, not having Peace Walker co-op, that's the real travesty. After landing, I return to my pod, the boss ambushes me there, immediately dismantles my gun and beats my ass, and then she blows up my pod and alerts the enemies to my position and tells me to get out of here. Thanks, Mom. I hide from the incoming patrol by lying prone in the tall grass nearby. It's my understanding that you could lie down in Peace Walker, but you can't move while you're prone. And when they turn their backs to me, I take them both out with the basics of CQC. You may not be able to crawl in Peace Walker, but you can crouch walk, which is definitely useful throughout this run. I stealthily take out the soldiers patrolling the bridge with my CQC, and then I continue on into Rosvet, where I'm supposed to meet with Ocelot, who's actually my undercover ally, but secret Chinese spy Ava gets there first, and despite clearly not knowing the code word for Snake's question, he inexplicably decides to trust her because she saves him from an ambush. I'm given a first-person view moment of Ava's chest, thanks Konami, and Ava resupplies us with our Hush Puppy Silenced Tranq pistol and an improved variant of the M1911A1. Not only is the Hush Puppy used in Peace Walker, but this exact M1911A1 is also used in Peace Walker as the M1911A1 Custom, so now we have two weapons we can actually use since we only had the survival knife before, but of course we couldn't use that because it's not in Peace Walker. After a night's rest, I'm again ambushed by the Ocelot unit, but after killing off a chunk of them with an AK-47, a weapon I'm allowed to use since Peace Walker has the RK-47, which is literally just the MSF variant of the AK, and after then evading detection, I'm able to pick off the rest of them with my AK from stealth. Unfortunately, I think I breached the rules here, but you guys will have to help me out. See, in Peace Walker, you can cling to cover, but I don't think you can peek out from cover and shoot, and I did that not just here, but quite a bit throughout the run, since I wasn't aware that you couldn't do that in Peace Walker until after the Fury fight. I'm not 100% certain on that, but if so, that's definitely a mark against me. Well, after taking them all down, Ocelot holds Eva hostage and I guess tries to reveal that he's Adam and that he's just late for the meeting, but Ava breaks free and beats his ass, so he runs away and then Ava takes off. After quickly getting past the swamp area, I had a bit of a difficult time with the electric fence and traps area. First, I of course had to figure out where all the traps were, since some of those claymores were a little difficult to spot, but I also unfortunately had to breach the rules once more, though this time I won't count it against myself. To get past the electric fences, you have to crawl under them, and though crawling isn't something Peace Walker Big Boss can do, I literally can't progress without doing this, so I'll make an exception for instances like this. The main limit of not being able to crawl is more so not being able to do it to sneak past enemies. I can only walk or crouch walk or lay down and remain in one spot. Beyond that, though, it was easy enough to knock out all the guards and dogs patrolling Bolshaya Pass South, allowing me to then move on to Bolshaya Pass Base, where I can sabotage some of the Soviet soldiers' supplies. This area was surprisingly a bit more difficult for some reason, despite being a relatively easier area in my opinion. It took a couple dozen attempts to get my routing and plan of attack right, but eventually, I was able to work my way through, knock out all the Soviets with my CQC or Hush Puppy, and then blow up their food supply shack, their communications building, and their munitions building with fragmentation grenades. After drawing out all the reinforcements and guards blocking my path, I used my newly acquired TNT, which takes the place of Peace Walker C4, and I blew up the Hind stationed at the base before making my way to Bolshaya Pass Crevice to face Ocelot in a duel for my first boss fight of the run, and we get this iconic moment in updated graphics. And with our first boss fight, you know what that means. Time to get chunky and slap on that Peace Walker battle dress. I know you get special camos for non-lethally defeating bosses, but I can always just do that on a casual, very easy mode playthrough, so for this one, I'm going full throttle and using my AK and M1911. After taking him out pretty quickly and being rewarded with this also iconic Ocelot moment, I dive down into the crevice to avoid the Pain's hornets, scour around for some resources, and then take on the Pain for my second boss fight and the first of the Cobra fights. The Pain of course takes a common the Pain L, as I pretty much just stand still for the entire fight and lob frag grenades and smoke grenades at him to get rid of his hornets before then mowing him down with my AK. Sure, he gets his licks in, but thanks to my battle dress, it barely does anything to me. Phase 2 is second verse same as the first, though he does knock me off the platform a couple of times to his credit, and by the end of the fight, he has done a decent bit of damage. Without the battle dress, I'd have definitely died. Regardless, I had the battle dress and defeated the pain. Next I move on to the following section. I eat a snake.
Say that again?
And then after swimming past all the Soviets flying around on their hoverbikes from Star Wars, I make it to the Ponizovia warehouse exterior, where Sokolov starts the MGS classic tradition of having the scientist guy piss himself in fear. Ocelot gets embarrassed by his mom for almost ruining the mission, and I chose to let the end go instead of taking him out right here and right now so that I can properly experience his boss fight for myself. After dropping the guards stationed outside the warehouse entrance, I take out the 3 guards inside before moving on to Grendini Gorky South, where I'd later face my second Cobra, the Fear. Then I made it to the lab exterior outside wall, took out the guards there with my Hush Puppy, knocked on the door to get the guard on the other side to open it, and then made it into the inside wall. Getting into the lab proper from here was simply a matter of taking out the guards in the area with CQC and Tranks, blowing up a provision storehouse with C4, and then crawling through this vent into the building. I actually snuck my way through the entire lab sequence without using the scientist disguise, and, after a bit of trial and error, I made it to Grenin, where he explains all the plot-relevant info about how he designed the Metal Gears.
A kind of Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
No one hears the word they say.
And Volgan likes Sokolov's Shagohod more, and how I have to go there and do this and that and all that great stuff, all because I let homie know his kicks are gas. Makes sense to me. Now, Infiltration was fairly easy, even without the disguise, but I don't think anything in the run quite irritated me to the level of exfiltrating back out. There's a scientist right on the other side of the door here that refuses to move or come in or do anything except just stand there, so after about a dozen restarts due to getting seen by him, I decided to just brute force the situation. After knocking out everyone and then sneaking back out past the remaining guards, I made it back to Grendini Gorky South and began my fight against the Fear. As soon as the battle starts, I equip my battle dress, cure myself of the Fear's toxin, and then use the fake death pill strat to lure the Fear in for some free shots. I tried to do it a second time, but he's wise to my tricks, so I instead have to do this the old-fashioned way. For the rest of the fight, I just use my thermals to find him in the trees and fire at him with my M16 and AK-47. He gets a couple of shots in on me, but for the most part, I just mag dump him when I could and mowed him down with general ease. Then I briefly got sidetracked on my way to the fight against the end when I took a detour through Sviatogorny East, but the trip was well worth it since I picked up this baby while I was here. The M60 and the M63A1 are both in Peace Walker, so I'm definitely gonna make good use of this guy later. Also, we got the M37, which we can use as well. After that, I made it to Sokroveno, God brought the end back to life, and then I rushed the end down as recklessly as someone can rush down the greatest sniper to ever live. Naturally, this approach costed me a great deal of stamina and subsequently food, but I had tons of really high quality food, and my battle dress is exceptionally tanky, so I'd just kind of run around until the end shot at me, which revealed his location, and then I'd run right over and the end him with my AK and M16. He gives me the slip at first, but here, I'm just far enough away that he relocates within the same area a couple of times, allowing me to rack up quite a bit of damage. Lastly, I finish him off with my brand new M63. I'm pretty excited to get my hands on his Mosin Nagant in my next run. Then, after the end fight, I got to experience for myself one of the most iconic moments in maybe the whole MGS series, the Snake Eater Ladder. Glorious. Well, after sneaking past these cliffs here, I get to the section of the area where that hind I blew up earlier would normally be, but now it's replaced by speeder bike stormtroopers. Ironically enough, they actually end up being the ones that spot me, but I dispatch everyone with my M37 easily enough that I just continue on to the area with all the hinds. After stealthily taking out all the guards posted here, I use the anti-air guns to take out all the hinds, and then move on to my meeting with Ava where we get some fan service.
Nice.
She tells us about how I'll have to infiltrate Groznygrad disguised as Rykov, and Ava unzips her usually unzipped jumpsuit that she literally just zipped up to unzip here for more fan service. I can respect it. Volgan brutally murders Granin, ripped to a real one, and then, after I make my way down the mountain cliffs past some flamethrower-wielding Foreshadow Soviets, I have to take on the Fury. Being that he's a member of the Cobra unit, like every other member, he also has a special supernatural ability. Flamethrower. I unfortunately used a lot of peeking from behind cover and shooting with my M63 to beat the Fury, something that I would no longer do from here on, but the battle dress and M63 combo of course makes short work of him. To his credit, he catches me with my pants down here at the end. I'm not allowed to move while prone, so when he catches me here with a fire blast, he knocks me down and stuns me long enough to knock me back down and stun me again when I get back up, essentially stun locking me. In my panic, I shoot him while prone to finish him off, and I don't actually know if I can do that. I know I can't move while prone, but I'm not sure whether you can fire your weapon while prone in Peace Walker, so that's something that you guys will have to let me know in the comments. Well, the Fury then I guess unfortunately goes to hell, according to himself, and then turns into 2 fire demons and explodes. With all the non-boss living Cobras defeated, I infiltrate Groznygrad, sneak my way past all the patrolling guards while tranking anyone that's in the way or almost spots me, and then I make it into the Weapons Lab West Wing where I knock out this Soviet officer, wait for Rykov to come out after him, knock out Rykov, and then take his clothes as a disguise for the next section, the only time in the game where you have to change your outfit in order to proceed. I meet up with Sokolov, Volgan comes in and greets me like a proper gentleman, a real man, and then because my snake isn't solid, he finds me out, I'm beaten within an inch of my life, and Sokolov dies. I take off my Peace Walker gear one time, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. After Ocelot accidentally shoots my eye out because he's a moron, and I get this cool first-person moment with the boss copying her son's signature gesture, I wake up in my prison cell, except no I don't because I instead activated some weird hack-and-slash minigame called Guy Savage Delta. I don't know what this is or why it was included in MGS Delta, but this is actually awesome. I lost my mind when I suddenly just randomly got thrown into this. After cutting down all the zombie monsters and evil liches with some sick 9,000 hit combos, I got overwhelmed in a cutscene and woke up back in MGS Delta. I used the radio frequency the Sorrow gave me to escape my cell, and then I begin to make my way to the sewers to escape. I try to sneak my way through, but it's admittedly pretty dang tough. I don't have any of my gear, including my Peace Walker outfits, but I still want to respect the idea that the sneaking suit for normal gameplay means I take the stealth approach, and the battle dress for boss fights means I tank and go pound for pound. I also didn't want to use my single action army since, while there is a revolver in Peace Walker, it's not a single action army, so I can't use it. I literally only fire the thing once to try to shoot one of those frog things, and it doesn't even work. After stealthing my way through decently enough, I run through the sewers, and Ocelot again fails to shoot me with the blank to let me know that he's on my side, at which point Big Boss takes a 50-foot spinning nosedive right into the watery afterlife, and I must have jumped in right after him because the preceding boss fight against the Sorrow made me want to kill myself. For nearly half an hour, I had to wade through the river of life and death and avoid the spirits of those I killed or face their wrath. Bro, I did not realize how many people I had killed, which I guess is the entire point of this boss fight, but man, they kicked my ass. This was the second fight where I had to use life medicine, the first being the Fury when he caught me in that loop, and I had to use 2 life meds just to barely make it all the way through. God dang it, man. Least favorite part of the game, but such an iconic boss fight for sure. My reward for defeating the last Cobra other than the boss was more Ava and some steamy campfire romance. Also, Snake tries to murder a moth that happens to be nearby because he's a psycho, but he misses because of his now poor depth perception. There'll be a callback to this later. Now with my Peace Walker outfits retrieved, it's really just a matter of sneaking back into Groznygrad, sneaking back into the weapons lab, using another officer to get past the locked door like we did with Rykov, nabbing the sneaking suit and maintenance outfit, using neither and instead using the raw, unadulterated aura of the Peace Walker sneaking suit to plant the C3 Ava gave me on each of the Shagohod's liquid fuel tanks to blow it and the entire weapons lab sky high, and then successfully sneaking past or tranking anyone in the way and planting the C3. C3. Also, when doing the last C3 charge, Snake inexplicably risks the entire mission in the final hour by tossing the charge 20 feet into the air and catching it. And at first I thought he was a complete moron for doing that for aura points, but then I realized that it was to show us that he had recovered his depth perception. It was a callback to him missing the moth earlier. Still the dumbest shit I've ever seen, and Big Boss is an absolute lunatic for doing this, but at least I see the line here. Volgin then catches me, and in one of the funnier scenes of the game, with Ocelot, Ava, the boss, Volgin, and Snake all gathered together, it seems like literally everyone knows what's going on here except for Volgin and Snake. Everyone's just in the background shooting each other glances and nods and stuff while Volgin's evilly expositing and Snake's just like, "You bastard." Anyway, the Volgin boss fight was the first fight I couldn't just brute force my way through since Volgin blocks bullets with his electromagnetic powers, and as a testament to Volgin's power, he actually defeated me a couple of times even with my battle dress. That said, that only makes me think more highly of the battle dress as, right at the end of the second phase of the fight, with 10 seconds left before the C3 detonated, I noticed the CQC prompt here and realized that you were supposed to CQC Volgin when he rushes at you, leaving him vulnerable to attack. The Peace Walker battle dress is so good, I beat Volgin on hard mode without even understanding half of his boss fight mechanics. In any event, after an infinite ammo chase sequence of Ava and I motorcycling away from the Volgin-controlled Shagohod, riding out of the Groznygrad base and down the entire 3-mile landing strip the Shagohod uses as a runway to launch nukes, I dropped it into a ravine, but it rockets out and I've gotta face it in the penultimate boss fight. This game has a lot of great boss fights. I easily do the first phase by blowing up the Shagohod's treads with the RPG, which leaves it weak to attack, which I suppose is a commentary that, unlike the Metal Gear, the Shagohod's weakness is its lack of legs, and then Volgin hops out and begins puppeteering the tank from on top of it, and phase 2 begins. Second verse same as the first, I blow out the treads with my RPG-7, which I'm allowed to use, and then I just shoot Volgin with the M63 or SVD, both of which are legal weapons. After Volgin turns himself into bullet popcorn, also known as the Proto-Burning Man, Ava and I are then immediately chased by the entire Soviet military for 15 minutes through 4 different terrains until we crash, Ava gets injured, and I have to escort her to our escape jet while being pursued by enemy forces. That was just, like, an hour and a half of non-stop action. I know Kojima's obsessed with movies and they're a really big inspiration for him, but this literally felt like playing through a military-style 007 action movie. That was nuts. I kinda just gave tactical and espionage the finger and went full action. And before long, it was time for the final confrontation with the boss. The final boss fight in the truest sense of the words. I didn't equip the battle dress for this fight since I wanted it to be fair. This is the boss versus Big Boss, sneaking suit versus sneaking suit. So at first in the fight, the boss kept running me down, dismantling my weapons, and kicking my ass, but after I figured out how to counter her with CQC, I was then able to just basically overwhelm her with firepower from grenades and my M63. It just goes to show that there are a few problems that you can't solve with explosives and a machine gun. After finally defeating the boss and reclaiming my title as Big Boss, Ocelot and I get into one last awesome CQC battle, we duel, I select the right gun, I fire the blank at him, maybe revealing that Ocelot was Adam, but probably not because Big Boss is honestly pretty stupid, and then to prove my point, he gets laid and played by Chinese spy Ava. So, did I beat Metal Gear Solid Delta as Big Boss from Peace Walker? You guys will have to let me know in the comments. Regardless, that was an absolutely fantastic experience. It was my first time playing MGS3 and I greatly enjoyed it and plan to play more for both my free time and for videos. The Delta upgraded game controls and graphics were just a really amazing way to experience this title, and not only did the Peace Walker outfits look so clean, but they were also very good outfits with exceptional boosts that I really think do them justice. Having completely silent footsteps saved my ass in stealth an untold amount of times, and the battle dress damage reduction was so good that I pretty much just turned my brain off for every single boss fight. Also, the added challenge of only using gear and weapons in Peace Walker and playing the game like it was Peace Walker also added an additional layer of fun challenge that I think just made everything more enjoyable. Oh, and also, here are my final stats. Judge me as you will, I basically have no concept of what any of this means comparatively to good or bad. Alright, that's the end of the run. If you enjoyed this video and want more Metal Gear content, leave a like to let me know. Subscribe to the channel for more of me and my challenge run content. I've been Red Fox, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.